Have you ever had a moment when you suddenly realized you have been moving and working and struggling for years, but you do not actually know where you are going anymore? As if your life has been stuck in a tunnel with no clear exit. Have you ever wished that when you feel completely confused and off track, someone could just switch on a light inside your chest and quietly point you back toward the path you were meant to walk? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. I'm really glad you are here with me. Today, we are going to sit together and talk about a very beautiful image from the Avatanasaka Sutra, sometimes translated as the Flower Ornament Sutra, a scripture famous for its vast, luminous vision of reality. In the text that you shared as the seed for this video, there was a description of 70 beams of light, 70 kinds of radiance that shine out from the teachings and from the awakened mind. These 70 lights are not just poetic decoration. They are like 70 different doorways you can walk through when your life is dark. 70 reminders that can pull you back from confusion, fatigue, and despair onto a path of clarity, compassion, and wisdom. You will not mechanically count from 1 to 70 like a textbook. Instead, we will walk through them in a story-like way, as if we are wandering together through a great hall of light. In each part of the hall, a different kind of light shines on a different corner of your life. One light reveals your habits, another light reveals your fears, another reveals your hidden kindness, another shows you the interconnection of all beings. At the time we reach the far side of this hall, my hope is that you will feel less alone with your struggles, more able to understand your pain, and more willing to trust that your confusion is not the end of your story. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a huge, old temple at twilight. The sun has gone down. The candles are not yet lit. Your eyes strain to see, but everything is dim. You know there are statues, paintings, symbols, and stories carved into the walls, but right now all you can see are vague outlines. You feel a little uneasy. That temple is your own life. When you are living on autopilot, reacting from habit, chasing other people's standards, and trying to hold yourself together without really understanding why you are doing what you're doing. And somewhere in the distance, a small lamp is lit. Its light does not reach the whole temple, but a small circle around it comes alive. You see colors, shapes, details, and another lamp is lit, and another. As more and more lights turn on, the temple you are standing in is revealed to be far more magnificent and complex than you ever imagined. Walls are covered in stories. The ceiling is painted with stars. Hidden in the shadows were treasures you did not know existed. Those lamps are like the 70 beams of light in the Avatanasaka Sutra. They do not magically move you to another building. They reveal where you already are. And in that revelation, your experience of this place changes completely. The first kind of light we can talk about is very simple and very powerful. The light that shows you cause and effect. When life feels confusing, it almost always feels random. You may think, why did this happen to me? Why is my life like this? Why do good things happen to others where I seem to always be stuck? In the darkness of confusion, everything seems unfair and meaningless. The teachings speak of a light that shines through your experiences and reveals that none of them appeared out of nowhere. Every situation is the result of countless causes and conditions coming together, including your own past thoughts, words, and actions. This does not mean you are personally to blame for every painful thing. It means that when this light turns on, you stop seeing yourself as a helpless victim of a cruel universe. You begin to ask different questions. Instead of asking only, why is this happening to me? You ask, what are the causes that lead here? What seeds have been planted over years? What patterns have I been repeating without realizing it? For example, imagine someone who constantly feels used in their relationships. They say, everyone takes advantage of me. People are selfish. When the light of cause and effect shines on this pattern, they might see that their own habit of never saying no, of ignoring their limits, of equating love with self-erasure, has been a major cause of their current suffering. That insight is not comfortable, but it gives them back their power. The pattern was created. It can be changed. This light does not judge, it simply shows that when you nourish anger every day, Anger will eventually dominate your reactions. It shows that when you water the seeds of patience and kindness, those qualities will naturally grow stronger. It shows that your future is not a lottery ticket, but a garden. The second kind of light is the light that shows you interconnection. When you feel lost in life, it often comes with a sense of isolation. You may think, nobody understands me. Nobody feels what I feel. I am alone in my pain. The Unisex vision is the opposite. It shows a universe where everything is interwoven with everything else, where each being is a node in an infinite web of relationship, where your thoughts, your words, your smallest actions ripple out to touch countless lives. Picture a dewdrop hanging on a spider web at time. In that one tiny drop, the entire sky is reflected. The clouds, the rising sun, the branches above, all live inside that little sphere of water. If you move the drop, the reflections change. In the sutra, there is a famous image like this, a net of jewels stretching infinitely in every direction. And in each jewel you can see the reflection of all the others. When this light turns on in your own mind, you begin to realize that your suffering is not separate from the suffering of others, or healing is not separate from the healing of others. The kindness someone showed you 10 years ago is still moving through you when you comfort a friend today. The anger you directed at a stranger on the street might echo later in the way they treat their child. This light might change the way you walk into a room. Instead of thinking, "Does anyone here approve of me?" you might start to think, "How can my presence lessen the fear in this space even a little?" Instead of thinking, "These problems are none of my business," you might recognize that every action you take in this shared world is part of a larger story. The third kind of light is the light that shows you your own innate potential. Sometimes confusion is not caused only by external events, but by how we see ourselves. If you secretly believe, "I am broken, I am hopeless, I am less than others," then every challenge will feel like proof that your negative self-image is correct. No matter how many positive phrases you say on the surface, a dark voice inside will whisper, "None of this can really change who you are." Unisex Sutra insists over and over that every being without exception carries the potential for awakening. Not someday, not in another life only, but right here as you are. This is not a flattery. It is a statement about the nature of mind. Beneath the habits, beneath the wounds, beneath the confusion, there is a capacity to see clearly and to love deeply that has never been destroyed. When this light shines, you start to see your weaknesses and your strengths through a new lens. You no longer think, "I am angry, therefore I am a bad person." You think, "Anger is a strong habit in me. But the fact that I can see it means there is a part of me that is already larger than the anger." At witnessing awareness is the seed of awakening. When you feel jealousy, you do not ground in fame. You say, "There is jealousy here. It is painful, but I can learn from it." You stop turning your temporary states into your permanent identity. The fourth kind of light is the light that reveals illusions. So much of our confusion comes from mistaking our thoughts, fears, and expectations for reality itself. You look at our partner and instead of seeing them, we see our fantasies, our demands, our unresolved childhood patterns. You look at our job and see not a set of tasks, but a mirror of our worth. We look at our own face and only see what culture has taught us is desirable or undesirable. The teachings in the Unisex Sutra are like a light that gently dissolves these illusions. It reminds us that everything we experience is conditioned, changing, and empty of a fixed, separate self. This does not mean that nothing matters. It means that the solid walls we imagine around things are not as solid as they seem. The role we play today can change tomorrow. The story we tell about ourselves can be rewritten. Imagine standing in a dark room as a child, convinced that there is a monster in the corner. Your whole body is tense. Your heart races. In that moment, the monster feels absolutely real. And an adult comes in, turns on the light, and you see that the monster was just a pile of clothes on a chair. The fear was real. The monster was not. In the same way, when this light shines on your life, you may see that many of the monsters you have been running from are actually piles of thoughts and memories stacked together. The belief that you are unlovable, the belief that you will always fail, the belief that life is meaningless. These are not permanent truths, they are mind creations. When you see them as such, they start to lose their power over you. The fifth kind of light is the light of compassion. When life confuses and hurts you, one common reaction is to close your heart. You think, if I care less, I will hurt less. If I do not feel deeply, I will be safer. Over time, this closing can become a habit. You move through your days half numb, half distant. The Unisex teachings step into that numbness with a different proposal. What if the way out of confusion is not to feel less, but to feel more, in a wiser way? Compassion here is not sentimental weakness. It is the courage to open your heart to the reality of suffering, both your own and others', and to respond with a wish to reduce it. The Suja's vision of Bhumpastafas, beings dedicated to the awakening of all, is like a blazing light in a world where most people are told to look out only for themselves. When this light turns on, you may find that even in your darkest times, you can still reach out to others. You can still say a kind word. You can still be gentle with a stranger. You can still forgive someone for a small mistake. These small acts do not erase your confusion, but they transform the atmosphere around you. They also remind you that your heart is not dead. As long as you can feel compassion, some part of you is still connected to the greater web of life. The sixth kind of light is the light of patience. One of the reasons we feel so lost is that we expect instant clarity. We want to read one book, attend one retreat, watch one video, and suddenly know exactly who we are and what they should do. When that does not happen, we feel cheated. We rush from method to method, teaching to teaching, hoping for a shortcut. This restless hopping is its own kind of darkness. Unisex tradition speaks repeatedly of the long path of cultivation, the patience of Bodhisattvas who spend lifetime after lifetime developing wisdom and compassion. This may sound overwhelming, but it is also deeply comforting. It means that you do not have to fix everything today. You are allowed to be a work in progress. The light of patience shines on your timeline and softens it. You realize that growth is not a straight line. There will be days of clarity and days of fog, weeks when you feel inspired, and weeks when everything seems flat. Seeing this is part of the path, not as a failure, allows you to keep walking. The seventh kind of light is the light of everyday practice. Sometimes we think that spiritual light only appears in grand moments, in temples, on mountains, during long meditations. The Unisex Sutra offers a different view. In its stories, even the smallest actions can become expressions of awakening when done with awareness and a pure heart. Offering a flower, sweeping the floor, giving someone a drink of water. All of these can be part of the path. When this light illumines your own life, you realize that your kitchen, your office, your commute, your arguments, and your chores are all places where you can practice. Washing dishes can be a chance to feel the water, notice your breath, and cultivate gratitude for having food in the first place. Talking with a difficult coworker can be a chance to observe your mental reactions and choose a slightly kinder response. This light is especially important when your life feels meaningless. Instead of waiting for a huge, dramatic purpose to appear, you begin to see that meaning can be woven into every small act. Each step can be taken with intention. Each moment can be used to deepen awareness. The eighth kind of light is the light of perspective. When confusion hits, your vision narrows. It feels like your current problem is the only thing that exists. Breakup feels like the end of all life. Job loss feels like the end of all security. Betrayal feels like the end of all trust. The Unisex Sutra, with its vast cosmic scale, constantly pulls the camera back, shows universes within atoms, and atoms within universes, shows worlds arising and passing away like breaths. This is not meant to make you feel small and insignificant. It is meant to free you from the prison of your own limited viewpoint. When this light shines, you realize that your current situation, no matter how intense, is one chapter in a very long book. You still need to take it seriously, but you do not have to treat it as the whole story. Wider perspective can soften your despair. It can also humble your pride. When you remember that countless beings are living, suffering, struggling, and awakening right now across the world, your personal drama becomes part of a much larger human story. You may still cry, you may still feel pain, but you are less likely to drown in the thought that your life is uniquely cursed. A ninth kind of light is the light of truthfulness. Any times, what makes us feel lost is not that we do not know what is true, but that we are afraid to admit it. A relationship is unhealthy, but we tell ourselves we can endure it. A habit is destroying our energy, but we tell ourselves we can deal with it later. A job is against our values, but we ground that knowledge in distractions. The teachings of the sutra are like a clear light that invites you to stop lying to yourself. This does not mean accusing yourself harshly. It means finally acknowledging what you already sense in your heart. When you stop twisting your mind to protect illusions, you may feel a wave of grief, but also a deep relief. It is tiring to live in constant self-deception. Grief may be frightening, but it is solid ground. The 10th kind of light is the light of vow, or deep intention. When everything around you feels unstable, it is easy to get blown around by events. One day you are enthusiastic, the next day you collapse. One day you want to help others, the next day you want to hide from everyone. A deep vow is like a flame that stays lit even when the wind is strong. In the Avatamsaka vision, Bodhisattvas make fast vows to liberate beings, to develop virtues, to learn from every situation. These vows are not rigid rules. They are living commitments that give direction to their energy. When this light shines in your own life, you may feel inspired to make your own sincere vows, appropriate to your situation. You might vow, for example, to reduce suffering rather than increase it in every conversation you have. You might vow to return to awareness of your breath at least 3 times a day. You might vow to stop passing your pain on to your children. These vows will not make you perfect, but they will give you a compass. When you feel lost, you can ask, what did I vow to life by? And how can I honor that vow in this moment, even a little? As we walk further into this imaginary hall of 70 lights, you can feel that all of them, no matter how many names we give them, are ultimately expressions of one great light, the light of awakened awareness. They are many because our delusions and sufferings are many. Different ones need different medicines, but the source is one. Let us turn this back more directly to your own heart. Think of a time in your life when you felt completely lost. Maybe it was after the end of a long relationship. Maybe it was when you had to leave a career you had built for years. Maybe it was when someone you loved died. Maybe it was when all your usual coping strategies stopped working and you can no longer pretend you're okay. In that time, what kind of light were you most hungry for? Did you need the light of cause and effect to see that your life was not simply a cruel accident? Did you need the light of interconnection to feel that other people had walked this path and survived? Did you need the light of potential to remember that you were not forever broken by this pain? Did you need the light of patience to give yourself permission to heal slowly? The beauty of a scripture like the Avatamsaka Sutra is that it does not give only one answer. It offers a whole sky of stars. On some nights, one star will guide you. On other nights, a different star will, or needs change. The light adapts. Maybe right now, in this phase of your life, you need the light of truthfulness more than anything else. You need to stop pretending that certain areas of your life are fine when they are not. You need to turn toward the discomfort you have been avoiding. That will be your starting point. Or maybe you have already faced some hard truths, and now you need the light of compassion to hold your own heart gently as you go through the process of change. You need to remember that you deserve kindness, even from yourself, especially when you are not at your best. Perhaps you have been practicing for some time, but you feel dry and uninspired. In that case, you might need the light of everyday practice to show you that you do not need a dramatic revelation to continue. You can bring sacredness into washing your face, into feeding your children, into answering emails. The Sutra's vision of every atom filled with infinite worlds can remind you that every moment of your day contains more depth than you can see. The question is not which light is objectively the highest, but which light your heart needs right now to take the next step out of confusion. So how can you practically use this idea of 70 beams of light when you wake up tomorrow and face your real life? You can begin by choosing one light as a theme for your day. For example, you might say, "Today I want to practice seeing cause and effect more clearly." And throughout the day, you keep this quietly in mind. When you feel irritated, you pause and ask, what caused this irritation? What expectation did I have that was not met? What old wound might be touched here? At night, you recall a few moments when you saw a pattern more clearly than before. Another day, you might choose the light of interconnection. You go for your usual tasks, but with a continuous recognition that you are part of a web. You notice the many hands that made your breakfast possible. You notice the strangers whose work keeps your city functioning. You notice how your mood affects the people around you. When you feel small, you remember that you are also a jewel in the vast net of existence, reflecting and being reflected by countless beings. On a particularly difficult day, you might choose the light of compassion. You consciously decide to be a little gentler with yourself. When you make a mistake, instead of cursing yourself, you place a hand on your chest and say, "This hurts, and it is okay to hurt." You extend that same attitude to others. You realize that everyone you meet today is carrying something heavy. You may not know what, but you respect that their smile or their anger might be covering pain. Over time, you can cycle through many different lights. You will begin to notice that they are not separate. When you practice cause and effect, compassion naturally rises. When you feel interconnection, patience grows. When you touch your innate potential, illusions loosen. Most importantly, do not think that confusion itself means you have failed. The very fact that you can feel you are lost is itself a kind of light. It means you have enough awareness to know that something is off. A person completely lost in illusion does not even question their direction. It charges forward happily, unaware of the cliff. The moment you stop and say, "I do not know where I am going. I do not know what I am doing," that pause, that honesty, is like the first light being lit in the temple. You may still be surrounded by shadows, but a point of light has appeared. From there, you can light another and another. Before we close, I want to share with you an image that combines many of these ideas. Imagine that your life is a vast night landscape. There are mountains in the distance, forests all around, rivers cutting through the land. First, it is completely dark. You cannot see anything. You feel scared to move. And somewhere far away, a tiny light appears on a mountain peak. That light is the teaching that life has meaning, that awakening is possible. You start walking toward that light. Along the way, you trip over rocks, get scratched by branches, fall into streams. Each time you fall, another small light appears at your feet, showing you the rock you missed, the root that caught your toe. Those little lights are your experiences of cause and effect, your insights into your own patterns. As you keep going, you meet other travelers. Some carry their own lights, some are still in darkness. You share what you have, and in that sharing, the space around both of you becomes brighter. These are the lights of compassion and interconnection. Sometimes, clouds cover the mountaintop. You cannot see the far light anymore. In those times, you rely on the small lights near you. You rely on your vows, your daily practice, your patience. You keep walking, step by step, trusting that just because you cannot see the destination clearly does not mean it has disappeared. This is what it means to live under the 70 beams of light described in the Avatanasaka tradition. You do not have to memorize them as a list. You have to let them soak into your way of seeing. The world is no longer just a series of random events. It is a vast, luminous network of causes, relationships, potentials, and opportunities to awaken. And you, even in your confusion, even in your mistakes, are not outside this light. You are inside it, surrounded by it, capable of reflecting it. So, next time your life feels meaningless, next time you are lying awake at 3 in the morning asking yourself what you are doing here, remember this simple thought: maybe you are not in the wrong place. Maybe you are just in a dark hallway of the temple, waiting for a light to be lit. And maybe the teachings, stories, and practices you meet along the way are exactly the lights you need. This long sharing helped you feel even a small ray of light in your own confusion. I hope you will carry that ray with you for the rest of the day. Let it remind you that you are not walking alone. Edit remind you that your pain is not meaningless. Edit remind you that the path of wisdom is not about becoming perfect overnight, but about turning on one light path or another, until finally the whole temple of your life is bright. If you feel moved to, you can share in the comments which kind of light you feel you need most right now. Is it understanding cause and effect, feeling more connected, remembering your potential, dissolving illusions, growing compassion, finding patience, bringing practice into everyday life, or gaining a wider perspective? Your reflection might help another person recognize their own need. If you would like to support more long, heart-centered content like this, you can subscribe so you do not miss future videos. Press like so the platform knows that reflections on wisdom and awakening matter. And leave a comment so we can keep this conversation alive. If you feel deeply aligned with this kind of sharing, you can also consider joining as a member to help sustain the time and energy it takes to create these episodes. Thank you for staying with me through this journey into the 70 beams of light. Your own path be illuminated step by step. You find guidance whenever you feel lost. Your heart gradually become a lamp for others, quietly shining in the dark.
Life gets noisy. Work, stress, expectations. Sometimes we lose touch with the quiet part of ourselves. Bracelet isn't just an accessory. It's a small reminder that you deserve peace. You deserve moments of stillness. You deserve to hold on to your inner balance. If one of these bracelets speaks to your heart, you'll find the purchase link in the description below. And even more auctions available on our channel's shop page. Pick home the one that feels right.